So how do you want to do this? You want to start talking about something off topic? I'm good to go.
I do want to talk about something off topic, but it's very relevant to the conversations that we've been having in the video series that's started coming out in 2015. I was teaching a class the other night to the chefs for the KD Kitchen program.
Okay.
It's the Japanese program I'm working on, and what we're trying to do is sort of get give them an understanding of why we prepare foods the way that we do in this culinary arts detox program that we're offering in Japan. And in my explanation to them, because it was sort of like a Skype thing and we had all these students on and we were doing a Q&A, I thought, why didn't I say that in the Bexlife videos? Because we tend to invite more questions sometimes than we answer when we do these videos, right?
Sure.
And I was trying to explain why we prepare the foods in the ways that we do. And the formula do you know who Professor Arnold Ehret is?
I do not.
You do not? No, he's like the foundation of all the work that I do. And I was introduced to him through Gil Jacobs. Okay. And Gil Jacobs was, he's a friend of mine. He was my first colonic therapist, and I went into business with him for many years. And he's very knowledgeable about the concept of removing retained wastes in the body to create vitality and health and healing. So he introduced me to Professor Arnold Ehret. And Professor Arnold Ehret is like this very eccentric character from the early part of the century. And he died. He fell and he actually hit his head. And he fell and he died prematurely. But
oh my gosh.
His fame... Yeah, they say he slipped on some grease because this was like in the I don't remember the year he died, but it was like in the 20s. He was in California. He's German. He's from Germany, but he was in California giving a lecture at a health food store, and he slipped and he fell and he hit his head and he died. But he wrote these amazing books. One is called Rational Fasting. One is called The Mucusless Diet Healing System. And these books are like $3.95 in the health food store. Like nobody reads them, but they hit the nail on the head. It's really, they really get the essence of what this entire detox cleanse thing is all about that everybody's doing today.
Okay.
And when you read his books, if anybody out there reads his books, they're like, you got to take it with a grain of salt because the language is a little weird. The ideas are a little dated. But if you can put that aside and understand the context it was written in, the knowledge is just pristine. And his famous formula is V equals P minus O. Okay? So it's vitality, which is, fitness and health and healing in the absence of disease. It's vitality equals pressure or power minus obstruction. So vitality equals pressure or power. The pressure or power is basically cell respiration. So we have all these pressure systems in the body, and it starts in the intestines, it moves up into the blood, it goes into the lymph, into the cells. And obstruction is basically anything that clogs our pipes, and that could be anything from heavy metals electrically connecting into tissue. That could be a clogged colon. And in the early days, that's all it was. It was like a clogged colon because there were far less chemicals in the early days. Now it's getting to be a real shit show with all the chemicals and pharmaceuticals in everyone's bodies. But
literally,
when people are going, what do I eat? What do I eat? Is this healthy? Is this not healthy? And we're trying to answer that question. It's what foods are creating the least obstruction in your body, because once we start to accumulate obstructions, the cells can't fully detoxify and breathe. And that's where disease starts to set in, and that's where weight starts to accumulate on people. And I realized that I don't think we ever said anything as simple and basic as that, going back to the roots for the Bexlife listeners. So people go, well, why does this person eat meat but they don't hold any weight and they seem to be healthy? And it's,
right.
Well, how much of the obstructive foods are you balancing out with what Arnold Ehret would call mucusless foods or mucus-lean foods? And those are the foods that cleanse the body. And those are primarily fruits and vegetables. And as we get out of that and get into fats, even plant fats, and as we get into animal foods and animal fats and processed foods, they become more obstruction causing.
That makes complete sense, and I think that that's going to be something that people find really easy to understand. If you think of it in terms of other things in life, just as far as, getting your own work done, how many things are getting in the way of you being able to do your work, and how perfect is your work when something's not getting in the way versus if you have distractions or obstructions in your life. So if there's kids yelling at me, or if you're working in a messy environment, whatever. Even the way your car runs, you know, how well does your car run on a clean engine when you're changing the oil all the time versus when you do not. So it makes perfect sense. So your body is going to work optimally when you have less obstruction, less toxicity getting in the way. That's super easy. We don't even have to make another video now.
No, that's it. I'm leaving. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Really, though, it's what it is. So you can operate well on a semi-dirty body or semi-dirty systems, but are you working as well as you could be? No.
Yeah. I mean, we maintain at high levels of toxicity all the time.
Yeah.
And then we do things like when you see all these children that are all congested from eating all this starch and dairy and processed crap, and then they just give the medicines to push it all back deeper and deeper and deeper into the body. And then we wonder why at 30-something years old, people are getting cancers and things that we've never seen before. It's because we're this suppression of symptoms. And we talked about that, how people think when they have symptoms, they think something's wrong. They need to stop the symptom, but instead they need to listen to it.
No, it's perfect. So. I run on, you know, very high energy and very effectively, even with a lot of stressors in my life. But that will catch up to me eventually, and I have to take a look at that. So people ask, you know, how do I do it? There's a reason why there's a curiosity surrounding how I'm able to work when I have, you know, the kids and the business and all that stuff going on, because I'm working against probably what is best for me. I'm just continuing to work with a lot of stress, and I'm just barreling through when I should be taking more time and work a little bit smarter instead of harder. But makes sense. I love it. It's all good.
Yeah. So
let's get into these questions that I've been getting.
Yeah.
Again and again, we get a lot of questions from videos that we've made just because we're not answering them. I think it takes a lot of time to answer something completely. So our process has become make the video, allow the questions to come up, and then we'll just answer those questions in subsequent videos. So if someone's just watching this one and they feel like we're not saying much, it's because we've answered part of it in a video before, and they really should check out the entire playlist that I'll link in the video description, because there's just, I mean, we've made now over probably 25 videos at least. This one is coming from a viewer question, and it's about cleanses and detoxes and diets. And are these 7, 14, 21 day programs effective? Do they have any use at all? Would you recommend for them or against them? I want to get into that and the basics of what a cleanse or detox is, and and also, can you see results from them? The results that you see, are they really coming from what they've done over that period of time, or do they need a longer period of time to really judge if something's working for them?
Well, there's a lot of variety to what these cleanses are. You know, I've seen people define cleanses. I mean, I've had people come in the office and say, well, I'm on a cleanse and I'm about to give them a treatment. And I go, oh, well, this should be easy. But to them, a cleanse is like, you know, like still eating like three to four meals a day. And I'm thinking, oh, I thought they were juicing, you know, because that's what like we commonly refer to as a cleanse. So there's a lot of variety there, but the numbers have nothing to do with anything. So 14-day, 21-day, 3-day, this is usually just created around some type of marketing, or if people are just trying to put some parameters on it. But the body really responds to consistency. And when we do deep work, and this is really important for people to understand. If someone just experiments with a 3-day juice fast or something, or a 6-day juice fast, or a 6-day smoothie thing, or whatever, it's good. It'll let you experience how that feels. You're not going to do yourself any damage. But when people start to do really deep work, and they do like a 30-day juice cleanse, and 30 to 90 to, I think they were even doing 120-day juice cleanses, which is totally safe and therapeutic, but not for everyone. But people were doing that, like, it was very popular about 5-6 years ago. Yeah. People were doing it a lot. And what was happening is when people weren't understanding that the body loves consistency, and it wants to hold them responsible for what they've done. The body It's getting the communication, and it's going, oh, this is how we live. We live at a very low level of inflammation. We live at a very clean place where we utilize oxygen better, and we don't have to process all this waste anymore. And then it chemically changes over and goes there. And so they go through this tremendous process. And when you come out and you start to eat again, your body's going to hold you accountable to what you do. And things are now magnified. So it's like quitting smoking for a year.
Hold on, things are now magnified. Justin, are you watching the camera at all?
Yeah.
Because we're going to run over time. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. So it's magnified.
Okay. This is a behind the scenes podcast. So what were we talking about? We're talking about the body holding people accountable to what they do afterwards, and things can become magnified. So what happens is here's a great example. There was there is still a famous raw food person whose name I won't say that was doing very long fasts. They were calling it juice feasting at the time, right? And
I gotcha.
She did this, and no, I know you're multitasking over there. So she did this long juice feast. And she had great results. She had a great experience. She posted the whole thing online. And then she went back to eating regular raw food. Now, she used to be very heavy. And what happened was she started to gain weight, like excess weight. And she was like, wait a second. So she started to call some of the practitioners and raw food practitioners and say, what's going on? Like, I ate a raw food diet. I did great. I lost all this weight. So she started to gain excess weight, and she was eating the same diet that made her lose all the weight initially. Okay? So what happened was her body got really efficient chemically, and then it thought that it was going to live on just liquid for the rest of its life, and she didn't go in slow enough. And basically what she had to do was raise her metabolism to be able to accommodate proteins and fats and raw food again, which is fine. She did that, but what we can see from that is how her body really just listened to the communication that she got that she was going to live cleanly. Now, she went from raw food to juice feasting for a very long time, and then she went into to raw food again, a very clean raw food diet too. Most people don't do that. Most people will fast and then they lose a lot of weight, and then they go into stuff that's not that great. They might start drinking alcohol again. They might start eating burgers again. I see this stuff all the time clinically. Like, this is what people do. They have this whole drama with food. So when people are going to go on these diets, the therapeutic value is not only what happens during that time, but it's what happens immediately after and gradually for a longer period after that. That's where the magic comes in. So basically what I'm saying is you want to commit after that moment of cleansing to living a healthier lifestyle. So making a mess, cleaning it up, making a mess, cleaning it up. What Gil Jacobs calls penthouse to the outhouse. You don't want to go back and forth like that all the time.
Okay. But I think that people are also asking, though, is if they're trying a new diet, let's say, not a cleanse or a detox, say someone's changing over to paleo, and we addressed this a little bit in another video, like the levels of health, but how do they know if a new diet or a new way of eating is working for them? How long does that take? What are the signs? Because people can have a false sense that something's working for them. For instance, I could start drinking bulletproof coffee every day. And I could say, I feel amazing.
That stuff, man.
So,
right.
How do I know if something's truly getting me healthier? And I'm talking about people who are already eating a good diet. I'm not saying McDonald's to clean paleo, if that's such a thing, or a good clean diet to vegan. I'm saying someone who's already eating. Oh, that's what I am saying. Somebody who's already eating something clean and then going to something that may be slightly cleaner. How do they know that that's the good change for them?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a hard question to answer because...
And how long does it take? Can I see a diet working for me in 21 days?
Well, how do we answer this? You can't see a diet working for you in 21 days. Definitely not. Let's use the example of the raw food diet. When people first got into vegan diets and raw food diets, many people lose a lot of weight, they don't look well, and they don't feel well. And that's where my entire relationship and practice of tissue cleansing came in. And that's how I started doing colonics, because the raw food diet was very popular. We were all getting into it, and we were experiencing very deep detoxes. But during that process, I've seen, and in my own life, and I've seen clients and friends where it took over a year to a couple of years to fully balance out through that cleansing process. It was tricky. We would go through periods of feeling amazing, and then we would go through periods of getting sick all the time, but we weren't really getting sick from decreased immunity. We were getting sick because our body was purging waste. Oh, look at her. What was that?
Yeah.
Leg rolls hashtag?
Leg rolls.
I saw the leg rolls picture. So in that example, when someone is cleansing, even if you look at their blood, it could look bad because what's happening is your body's purging a lot of acids. It's eating up your minerals in your blood, but it's all just a temporary process to get you through a very expedited deep cleanse that you initiated by either fasting or by eating a raw food diet. When people are going, like, say, from vegan, and then they go, well, now I want to try the raw till 4 thing, and I want to eat more fruit and stuff like that, it does get tricky. What we look at for that is, because we're looking at all this new stuff, right? Nobody's really eating traditional diets of indigenous peoples anymore, right? So we're all of our food is based in farming. It's based on all these new ideas that we have. So even everything from raw food to paleo to all these things, it's created by people that come from civilization and live on agricultural foods, and we're trying to make new stuff. So, the way I've looked at it, and this is one of the reasons why the Durian Rider Freely stuff comes up, and I watch them so closely, and I watch the whole 80-10-10 movement so closely, is because it's so new, and the people that have done it in the past, like the pioneers of it, they didn't know they had problems initially. So like if I start eating lots and lots of fruit and I'm not exercising a lot, I still may feel really well, okay? And I'll feel really good because the sugar can be very stimulating. It's a very clean diet, so elimination should be high. But what happens is if you're not using that sugar effectively enough, it can create an acid condition in the blood. And what that does is it demineralizes your teeth and your bones, and it takes many years for that to happen. Then you find out later and you go, oh shit. So I understand the confusion. I know it's a hard question to answer. How do you know if it's really working for you? You can go based on how you feel, but just know that excess protein and excess sugar can stimulate you and make you temporarily just be high from it and not feel and feel really good, even though it's a false sense of chemically being
balanced. Let me wrap it up
balanced.
this way then, so that we can move on to the next topic, which I feel is coming up in this discussion. So I want to move on. Is there any benefit to the 7, 14, or let's start 3, 7, 14, or 21 day cleanse? And we'll say specifically a juice cleanse, and then a commercial cleanse that includes supplements, and then the last category, like a clean eating, kind of raw till the nighttime, and then eat something very, very clean for dinner cleanse.
Yeah, I think, well, the greatest value comes in what you do after. There's short-term value in that, and the greatest value comes in how you live your life after. But the thing that I always find most valuable with people is when someone has never done anything like that, and then they do it, and they experience how they feel, and then they experience how they feel when they come out, and they cheat a little bit, or they get back into their normal life.
Keep going. She's just spitting on herself.
They learn a lot about their bodies and themselves, and then it inspires them to then make better choices in the future. Rich Roll, I don't know if you know who Rich Roll is. We met him at the John Joseph book signing, and he has a great podcast. And his whole thing was he did like a juice fast, I believe, and he was like, I don't know, he was a lawyer, and he was just eating a lot of fast food, working long hours, and he was in a real crummy condition, and he was overweight, and you see pictures of him, he's totally like inflamed and puffy, and he went on this juice fast, and the experience, I don't remember how long it wasn't that long, but the experience that he had was just incredible, and like, look at him now, he's like an ultra athlete, he's like, because he was so inspired from doing that cleanse. The only caution I say is just we have this food drama that some people carry on for life. Watch the bouncing back and forth. Sometimes it's better to just be consistent than to do the extreme stuff. So they just got to watch that because it could be more damaging in the long run.
Can I get some wipes for her, not something dry? Baby stuff. She's spitting up. Her diet's awesome.
How's she doing over there? Oh, she's spitting. Yeah.
So I want to get into the next topic. And we just covered the wiping the spit off the baby. We just covered the cleanse detox talk, which I'm sure is going to bring up 1,000 more questions because everybody really wants those cleanses to work. They're expensive. They're exciting. People invest in them.
the stuff in the bottles doesn't work. I got to tell you, it generally there's very few things you put in that cleanses you. Remember when you had gone to go interview some doctor? I won't say who it is. I actually cut it out of the podcast because I don't really know this person, but you said, oh, he's a doctor. He's like a holistic doctor, and he sells some detox thing. And I remember he was a little mean to you, and that's why I initially probably had a prejudice against him. But so I looked at his thing online, and immediately I looked at it, and I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing selling this, all this junky powder crap in a bottle. Like, that's not how it works. So that stuff doesn't work.
This is what I want to hear, though. I mean, these are the answers. Look at you, you're falling apart too. These are the answers that we want because people are investing their money and they want to know, is this junk? Is it something that's beneficial? So leave the juice cleanses alone, leave the packaged or prepackaged powder supplement stuff alone. Maybe just go for just clean eating.
There's certain things in certain cases that work. Psyllium and bentonite cleanses, different enzyme therapies can work. Heavy doses of probiotics can help situations. There's different modalities that can help. But really, when you think about it, like, we de-stress when we go on vacation. When we remove all the stresses of life. Some people get all stressed when they go on vacation, but once you're on the beach, we de-stress when we remove all the stresses of life. We detox when we remove all of the things that toxify our bodies. That's where we detox. When we go on vacation from toxic things, that's the simplest way. Leaving things out, that's the simplest way.
We just talked about the effectiveness, the worthiness of these detoxes, these 3, 5, 7, 21, 90, 120-day detoxes, cleanses, whatever. And you started talking about how you can really tell if it's working or not. And I think that lends itself to the discussion that I want to have now about supplements.
Yeah, it does.
I've had this discussion before with other experts, and I want to know your take, and my audience more wants to know your take on, do you think supplements are necessary? Do they work? Do we need them?
I think that some supplements work, and I think that sometimes they're necessary, 100%. I had never in 21 years of eating healthy and being vegan and all that, I never had my blood tested. It was just there wasn't an opportunity for me to have it done. It was just too expensive. It was just always an added expense, and I've wanted to have it done over the years. So recently I had it done because now you can order tests online, and there are ways to get in certain states. You need a doctor. And to walk into a doctor's office in New York City and shake their hand and become their patient, it's upwards of $400. And I'm like, that's just to have them hit your knee with the little thing and then like look down your throat and go. And then the blood work is extra. So I was like, I don't want to spend $1,000. I just want to spend like $400. So I found a thing online.
Is that how much it was?
It was less than that. The blood. There's a great website called healthcheckusa.com, I think. And you can order stuff. If you're in New York, New Jersey, you can't. You have to do tricks, and I did tricks. It's not like illegal or anything, but you're not allowed to order them in these states because you must have a doctor to order blood work. I don't understand what that's about. It just sounds like nonsense to me. Anyway, I got the blood work done. For over a year, or just about a year, I stopped all supplements and all foods that contain supplements, like any green powders that had a supplement or thing in it. Because I really wanted to see what was going on, and I think I told you I felt very overwhelmed, and I was forgetting things all of the time, and I thought.
Well, before we go on, I want you to define supplement for people because, okay, so you're having a green powder that didn't have supplements in it, so define supplement. Well,
supplements are extractatives. I'm not talking about powdered barley grass juice or spirulina or something. Like, those might be supplemental foods because they're dried and things like that, right. And they're not, they're not. Apples, it's not like regular food. It's like very supplemental food. But supplements are things that are extracted. It's when you're extracting nutrients from plants or stone. Sometimes there's things that are extracted from stone, which is not the best idea. But we're talking about vitamin and mineral extractions. So what we think of as vitamin and mineral supplements, that's what I'm talking about. But sometimes those powders are put into quote unquote whole foods products. So that's what I meant by avoiding those things. So I was avoiding those as well. I was avoiding nutritional yeast and things like that because those are supplemented with B vitamins sometimes. So I didn't take anything, and I had to go see a doctor for another reason. I had a little external emergency. So I went to see a doctor, and he was talking to me. He's taking my health history, and he was like, and I explained to him that I was not taking any supplements because I wanted to have my blood work done and I wanted to see it. And he just thought I was out of my mind. He goes, you realize that running your vitamin and mineral reserves down is not going to serve you in any way, right? And I was like, yeah, but I'm a practitioner and I use my body as a barometer.
You're doing a science experiment.
He just thought I was nuts. But so anyway, I had my blood work done, and I thought I was going to be vitamin B12 deficient because I was forgetting things, and it turns out I was just looking at too much Facebook. That was the official diagnosis, my own diagnosis. But so I was getting overwhelmed with all the computer nonsense. But I was not vitamin B12 deficient, which speaks a lot because I have taken some B12 supplements in the past, but it had been a long time since I had taken anything. I attribute not being B12 deficient to having good intestinal flora because of all the fermentation stuff that I work with and taking probiotics and keeping a clean body. But I was deficient in vitamin D.
Okay. But that's very common.
Extremely common. Anyone that lives over the 40th parallel is not going to be getting sufficient amounts of vitamin D through sunlight. So yes, I take vitamin D3.
I think the statistic is near 30% of all adults in our geographic area are vitamin D deficient.
Yeah. And it's a big problem. I mean, it's so connected to bone density. It's so connected to cancer prevention and things. Like vitamin D is a very, very important vitamin. So we should have never moved away from the equator. I don't know what we were thinking. So anyway, so do I think it's necessary? Yes, I do think that in some cases people can cover all of their bases. I obviously covered just about all of my bases with the exception of vitamin D by living on a plant-based, almost all raw food diet, vegan. But supplements I find to be highly therapeutic, especially.
Well, let me talk about this then. You do not make or sell supplements at all. You are not affiliated with a supplement company.
No.
So what are your recommendations for specific brands? And if you don't have a specific brand, maybe then what should people be looking for in supplements, period?
I do have a specific brand. I like Innate Response Formulas, INNATE. I like them because they're 100% food-based. And I like them because they're 100% plant-based as well. And they also put in all the cofactors. So when you're isolating nutrients, you can create imbalances in the body. Usually nothing terrible, but you don't assimilate it as well as we would. Like if we're taking one of the regular mainstream brands of vitamins and minerals, we may not assimilate it as well if all the cofactors aren't there. Cofactors are all the other different elements that we would find in the whole food to assimilate that nutrient. So they do a very good job of trying to balance that stuff out, and they add different herbal things in there too. And I just think it's a very, very good company. There's another one that I've not used at all, but everyone at our office really likes, called Premier Research Labs, I think. And they sell some very good supplements. And people have had their blood done, their nutrition values done before and after, and it's been great, especially for B vitamins. Really, the things that people are most deficient in are B vitamins and vitamin D. Those are the things people are most deficient in. Some people are deficient in magnesium, but if anyone's eating a plant-based diet, that should not be a problem because magnesium is just abundant in plants. I remember in culinary school, we took some fortified cereal, and we smashed it up, and then we took a high-powered magnet, and we pulled all of the fortified minerals out, and you can see the shreds of metal with your eyes. They were taking shreds of metal from stone, from metal refining. And that's how they were supplementing cereal. And they were regular commercial cereals. And they were way too big. They were completely non-absorbable. So they were boosting what it said on the label, but it was from an inorganic source that your body was not able to assimilate anyway, of a particle size that you weren't able to assimilate anyway.
That's a super important point for, especially for parents, I think, that are buying stuff for their kids and with the cereals, because they're fortified with all these extra vitamins. Are your children's body is actually able to even absorb the vitamins that they're throwing in there? So it's useless if your body can't use it. And that's what's happening with a lot of foods, especially kids' foods.
Yeah.
because that's like a big selling point, and it makes parents feel good. So they're getting the juice in a bag that's fortified with all this extra stuff, or the cereal in a box, and it's still just junk.
That's why
There's nothing of value in it.
That's why juice is still the ultimate superfood, because Dr. Norman Walker, who he always used to stress the importance of turning those minerals from the soil, from that inorganic form of rock and stuff like that, and transforming it through a plant into an organic absorbable form. So when you're taking these concentrations of deep green vegetables and other root vegetables, and we're taking those live active minerals that are now readily absorbable from the body, rather than just eating coral, like coral calcium or something like that, which is much harder to assimilate and can leave deposits, can leave obstructions.
Makes so much sense. Once again, I feel like we're getting easier, more easily absorbed answers are coming from us.
It's because I'm back on supplements. I was on supplements for a year. I have to tell you, but when you do think, like, if people, and I really want to get a vitamin B12 shot. I've never had one, but taking vitamins again, I got to tell you, my mood is elevated. They can. There's some therapeutic value to taking supplements. Even though I was covering all my bases, taking B vitamins, I feel like I think more clearly and I feel better. Even though there was nothing wrong in paper, I feel better.
It's the same thing that happened with me with the placenta encapsulation. I can't pinpoint it. I can't give it all the credit, because I didn't do a scientific experiment and have a control and all of that. But my mood was so much better when I was on them compared to after having my other babies. And since I've been off them, I feel like there's a change. Again, completely unscientific, but it was that I guess it has a higher concentration of iron, or like readily available iron, B vitamins, all kinds of good stuff. So who knows?
I'm sure it does. Probably those two things specifically. Yeah.
Yeah. I should sell my placenta. Premium.
Become a placenta farmer? Artisanal placenta?
Placenta farmer. That is so great. I love the sound of that.
That shit would sell
I could
too.
be a placenta farmer. Oh my gosh. At a premium, I'd be rich. I could quit all of this. I'd never have to make another podcast video again. I like it though.
Placenta
Last
cheese.
video for today.
Okay.
We're banging these out. This is really good. Covered the detox, covered the supplements. Okay, so I want to talk more about sugar, and something that's been, super popular right now. Gabby Bernstein just celebrated a year off of sugar. Everyone's going on these sugar detoxes. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that people are recognizing how bad the sugar is for them. However, is the sugar actually killing us? And let's not just talk about refined sugars, added sugars. I get questions about candida a lot. I get questions about cancer a lot. Sugar's role in making us sick, or sugar's role in making us sicker. And what is it? And is sugar as bad as everyone is making it out to be?
Here's the thing. I don't believe so. I think that it's not the sugar that needs to get blamed. Okay. It's the condition of the body in which the sugar is in. Okay. Here's a good example. Dr. Robert Young, he's the guy that popularized live blood cell analysis. That's when you take a little pinprick on your finger and you take some blood and you put it on a thing and you look under a microscope and they tell you all these things and you could see all this stuff. And they say, oh, look, here's some pools of acid. Here's your white blood cells starved for oxygen. And they do these before and after things where they like hydrate and alkalize you and you could look and see the difference and find your imbalances that way. It's not a very accurate diagnostic tool because it only takes a snapshot of what's happening in that moment. It could change from moment to moment, but it's still very interesting. So in his book, he wrote a book. He's been under a little heat lately, if you Google him. But he wrote a book called The pH Miracle. And it's all about and it's about alkalizing. Organic Avenue, the juice company in New York, has like based their whole thing on his principles, right? So in his book, he lists fruits as acidic, or the potential to be acidic in the body. But we know that's technically not true. But the blood that he was testing, every time people were eating fruit, their blood was turning acidic. And I don't mean lemons and limes, because that's alkalizing as well. I mean, people were eating an apple and their blood was getting acidic. The reason that but if you look at the nutritional data and all the other charts, they list fruit as having alkaline elements to them. So why was people's blood turning acidic when they would eat that? And I think he called it the potential of acidity in his book. I don't remember. I haven't looked at it for a long time. But I was trying to make sense of it. And the interesting thing I realized is that who was eating that sugar, and why was it turning acidic in their blood? Because when people are not in good health, when they're eating a lot of sugar, they're not athletic, and they don't have those, and they have a lot of obstructions in their body, fruit sugar hangs out and ferments. I was sitting in a sauna reading O Magazine once, and there was a little snippet thing in there, and it said, why is that funny to you?
Of course you were.
Yeah. I don't know. That's what was there, O Magazine. So I love Oprah anyway, but I don't usually read O Magazine.
I did not know that, actually.
Oh yeah, I have her DVD collection, the 25th anniversary and everything. Yeah. The very few times in my adult life that I can actually cry is when I'm watching Oprah. Oprah can make me cry.
Wait a minute. I don't want to get off topic because we're making this video and I only have a limited amount of time, and the baby, I don't know if you could hear, but she's grunting in the background. What?
Yeah, I think Oprah's wonderful. But who wouldn't think Oprah's wonderful?
There's a lot of people who don't like Oprah. Are you kidding me?
Really? Why?
I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah,
I like Oprah. I like what Oprah's done. I have, great respect for her as, a businesswoman and someone who uses her business for good. But wow, this is terrible.
I don't know. I've never known her to do anything bad.
I don't know if I can talk about sugar anymore.
Huh? What?
I don't know if I can talk about sugar, but go ahead. Go into your sauna, Oprah magazine.
And basically the same thing that Dr. Doug Graham is saying with its 80-10-10 diet is, I forgot which university it was. I have the clip somewhere. I could send it to you. I took a photo of that, or I ripped it out or something and scanned it. Anyway, it said, it talked about how the higher the fat that we eat when we eat sugar, the longer the sugar sits around in the blood. And if the sugar is sitting in the blood for too long, what's going to happen is it's going to ferment. And it could ferment from candida, which naturally exists in everyone's bodies. And if most people are eating high-fat diets with sugar, which they do, I'm a little guilty of that too. I eat a lot of raw desserts and stuff like that. But when you're having sugar stagnate in your blood, either from being inactive and not burning it quickly enough, or eating a lot of fat with your sugar, you can start to develop yeast problems. You can start to have overgrowth of candida. It can be in the blood. It can be in the intestines. It could be in other areas of the body where we grow yeast. And it could show up in a lot of different ways. So it becomes a problem. And once you have that overgrowth, it gets tricky. Candida overgrowth can also happen from stress, trauma, and heavy antibiotic use and different medications that really upset the balance of probiotics in the intestines and in other orifices of the body, and then you have the problem of candida overgrowing, and that's one of the major problems with sugar with people is the yeast and the fungus. Getting out of that is a whole other conversation. Getting out of the candida thing.
Yeah. So correct me if this question is off, but so the sugar is a problem if the body is unhealthy, or if you're putting it into a less than ideal diet. So it would be the fat in combination with the sugar that's an issue. And to fix this, to make your body tolerate sugar better, would it be to lower your fat intake?
It could be to lower your fat intake, but not necessarily.
How do I get to eat sugar?
Eat natural sugars and make sure your elimination is high and you're athletic. That's the simple answer for most people. But here's the thing. We'll talk about some advanced stuff for just a second. Dr. Bishie and Gil Jacobs, when I was a youngin' and I was like sort of still working. Well, I still work with them, but when I was in the office all the time with Gil, I used to listen to these conversations about how in a perfectly clean body, which doesn't really exist in this world, but like in this perfectly pristine body, if you had all your passages open, no obstructions, and you're very open and clean, and you're using oxygen efficiently and have good circulation, that perfectly clean body could exist on a few sugar cubes a day with no cost to the body. because it's not going to ferment on anything. It's just going to be glucose, energy, done, and you're fine. When you start putting white sugar in a stagnated body, the glucose ferments and it becomes a problem. And in that process, you lose minerals. So you're actually, every time you eat white sugar, it's at a cost of your mineral reserves in your body. So
that sounds crazy to me, but
right.
I'll just,
so the
I'll say,
cleaner
okay.
our bodies, the better and more athletic we are, and more circulation we have, and more metabolically efficient we are, the better we're going to handle sugar. Yeah. How's that? Does that
It's
offer?
okay.
Does that invite more questions than it does answers?
It does invite a lot of questions, because with the sugar camps are now becoming, it's becoming two camps of sugar is okay, in moderation, all kinds of sugar. All sugars are the same. It doesn't matter what kind of sugar that you're having, because your body is recognizing it as the same. So it doesn't matter if it's high fructose, if it's, refined white, if it's coming into a banana. And then there's all sugar is bad. This is the divide that I see happening. All sugar is bad, even if it's in a banana. And I only reference bananas because it's my favorite thing. I like to take a more sane approach. I'm going to be judgmental about it and label it. I love all of my fruits and my sugars coming from whole foods, and I try to lay off the added sugars. And I do think that there's a big difference between honey and white granulated processed sugar and high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I won't mention that I've eaten probably an entire jar of raw honey over the past 2 days.
Well,
So
you're breastfeeding.
Can I ask you a quick question about that, though?
Yeah.
I gave up coffee, so I've been, off coffee for a very, very long time, and I was off all forms of caffeine. And this is going to be like a completely off-topic thing, but I'm going to include it in this video anyway. I tolerate black tea, which has caffeine in it, very well. No jitters, no withdrawal, none of that stuff. Coffee, it's an immediate issue for me. Is there a reason for that? I'm also eating a lot of raw sugar, so I've introduced a lot more, or not raw sugar, raw honey. So I've introduced that back into my diet.
I'm not sure, actually.
We'll
I don't know.
not include that then. I will not include that, and we'll talk about that another day. I'll let you do some research.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it depends, because when I was researching kombucha and stuff, and I was like, I wanted to make a caffeine-free kombucha, which is very difficult to do, I've heard, and because I'm so sensitive to caffeine, I have enough trouble sleeping anyway. I woke up at 3 a.m. last night, it's just like I don't have this great schedule, so. I was researching it, and there's such a variety of levels of caffeine in different teas and coffee and different coffees, and it's just all over the place. So it's hard to know. Some black teas have very little caffeine in it. Some have, really high amounts. So it's hard to say.
So we're just going to leave the sugar debate. We're going to leave it as a debate. And
our bodies accommodate to what we do, and I look at what
but
people
our bodies accommodate to what we do. But then you're going to have people saying, "Well, then I'm going to eat a lot of burgers, and my body's just going to adjust, and I'm going to be fine."
It is going to adjust, but are they going to be fine, or are they going? I mean, there's people walking around right now going to work that smoke crack. There's stockbrokers and lawyers that are addicted to crack cocaine, and they're still at work today. Are they fine, or did they adapt to what they do to maintain? We only maintain for a certain amount of time. The people that tend to do really well, and that I know in my life, especially as they get older, like Dr. Bishian is 86, Gil Jacobs is in his 50s now, still look very good, and they have a lot of vitality. I look at myself.
So give me the top three sources of sugar.
What's that? The top three?
Yeah.
Fruit, maple syrup, raw honey. I think those are the highest quality sugars that we could probably have. Fruit first for me, absolutely.
So the hashtag is maple syrup on everything.
I think so. You know what's interesting? Maple syrup is a cooked sugar. It takes 40 gallons of syrup of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. That's why it's so expensive, and it comes very slowly out of these trees, and it's a very special product. It has a good mineral concentration. But I've noticed something about maple syrup being a cooked sugar versus raw honey and agave. Agave I don't use anymore, but I've used raw honey in the past. But I tend not to use raw honey, even though I think it has a lot of great healing qualities and a lot of great little therapeutic elements in it. I mean, honey's fantastic. It's good for burns, but I don't use it because I find that it ferments very, very quickly. Like if I don't eat it alone, or just have a cup of tea with honey, like on an empty stomach, if I like somehow mix it into a dessert or something like that, I just find like it's gas city, and I just go, maple syrup is much less, or dates is much less.
Is that what's happening to me?
Is that what's happening to you? I don't know, because yeah.
Oh, well,
whenever we mix sugars up with a little food.
For a second. No, I have had the worst gas. And I cannot figure it out. I'm like, this is terrible. What am I doing?
You're fermenting sugar in your gut is what you're doing.
Could it be the jar of raw honey that I've eaten?
Hey, here's something. This is about, every time we watch the videos back, I go, oh, I should have mentioned that. You're saying, what's the problem with sugar? When people mix sugars into foods, or don't properly food combine with sugars, it becomes a problem. So that's, it's going to cause gas and alcohol. It's going to cause people to gain weight, to feel puffy, to have gas, to not feel well. So, that's been how I sent my son to private school, fixing that problem for many New York City women.
What did I do to myself? I'm like scooping it out like these giant heaping spoonfuls.
Which is great delicious. First thing in the morning.
It tastes delicious. I've been doing it all day long. But that's really hysterical that I couldn't figure it out. So thank you for that.
Treat raw honey like fruit. Have it with fruit, have it with greens, have it on its own, have it in tea. Don't mix it up with foods, because it's just going to ferment. And it's so bioactive, that raw honey. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just bubbles up. The moment it gets held in that warm temperature in the body and doesn't get absorbed and used, it just ferments. So I don't use it.
Very quickly, just because you brought it up, agave.
Yeah. Very
popular. Then hearing some not great things about it. What's your take on agave syrup?
I think it's fine. I don't think it's a problem. I don't like to use it because of that honey thing that I just mentioned. I find that it has the same thing. It just creates a lot of gas, and so I don't use it. And I like maple syrup, so I use that. I find it's a little more calm in my body. But agave, I don't really think it's a big problem. I know they say, oh, it's just like corn syrup. It's if molecularly it's like this and that. Everybody was using it, and everybody still was like on a raw food diet and eating agave, and everybody still felt great and looked great and detoxed and all this stuff, and it never killed anybody. But the moment the article comes out, it's evil.
Right.
What's that? I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I said it goes back to the levels of health, or levels of pristine or not being pristine.
Yeah.
So we can get super particular into almost not eating at all. In this environment.
We can split hairs forever. Yeah. So, agave's fine. It's not my sweetener of choice, but it's fine.
All right. Well, we got your top 3, so at least we know the hook for the video.
Yes. Fruit, maple syrup, and raw honey, as far as health.
It's going to top 3 sugars that you should be eating, and they're not going to get the information until minute 19.
Yeah. And 3A is, I like coconut sugar a lot. I find that to be pretty okay. Yeah, it tastes good too. Hey, do we have a video coming out today? Did it come out today? It's Monday.
This is the Monday that it's going to skip, and then it resumes again over the next 4 Mondays.
What do you like a series, a television series? You go on hiatus for a few weeks during the holidays or something? What is that?
I have obligations, so I had to do a little collaboration with a really cool community called the Kin Community. It's it used to be all women, but I believe there are some men involved now. But it's like really great, like lifestyle, cooking. It's just an amazing community of really high quality creators and videos. So I did a video for them today, and then it's coming back. But yeah, I'm scheduled. My video schedule is done basically through May, and then I'll have to make some changes, of course, as things come up and there's things to promote. But yeah, I'm all done.
Cool. Well, then we'll get in the kitchen and we'll make some food.
We should do that before then, because I'm getting requests for recipes. People want to see stuff getting done.
And I have a book coming out that will be coming out soon. We're a little behind schedule on the book, but looking at it, I'm very proud of it. I'm very happy. I think it's going to be very useful to a lot of people. So we'll make some fermented food on your channel.
Fermented food, and I have a request for chocolate smoothie recipes.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we'll be doing that.
Yeah, we could do that. So.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Have we wrapped up our video session?
I think we have wrapped up this series of 3. All these little mini series
All right,
are
cool.
awesome.
I'm looking forward. I like the last series that we did.
I love it.
All right. I'm going to wrap up this session. Thank you for watching. Everydaydetox.org, Bexlife.com. Any other .coms?
Nope.
No. All right. Thanks for watching. Check us out on iTunes, everydaydetox.org. See you soon. Thank you.